Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Wednesday show where I answer your questions. Every week, I basically get viewer questions on my Wednesday videos, and I make a special video to my viewers. If you want to have your question answered, just put it in the comments below, and I'll I'll answer your question. Um, at the end of this video, I have a special thing that I'm going to show, so stay tuned for that as well. It's a bonus. It's a bonus for all. Somebody asked me about it, not in the questions, but they asked me to show something. So I'm going to show something a little special at the end. But we'll get into the questions for now. The first question is, has there ever been a book you actually regret buying? Is there a comic book that you would never want added to your collection regardless of rarity or price? Okay, so let's start with the first question. One that I actually regret buying that I love the book though, and I still love the book even though I regret buying it. Because what sometimes happens with me, it's not that I don't like the book, and it's not that I'm not happy with the book or whatever. It's that I sometimes overpay. You know, you get excited, you want to get the book. It doesn't come up very often, especially with Golden Age. You don't see the books that often. And you get excited when you see it finally come up. It's like, oh, I finally have a chance to buy a book. And that's what happened with this one. It's a low grade. And that was actually why I thought this would be my maybe only chance to pick up the book. And right now I'm trying to get it out of the plastic so I can show it to you properly. Because it is a great book. It's just, it's a shame that it is what it is. I'll show you why. Okay, so this is Catman number 28. Beautiful book. Just a great cover. It is a LB Cole cover. It's a book that I wanted for the longest time. I'm a big fan of Catman and Kitten. And this is just a classic cover. It's got a skull. It's got this weird magician dude. It's just a really classic cover. Not a book that you see very often. So it came up on Heritage Auctions, and I was like, oh, wow, this is an opportunity to buy it. It's a low grade. I figured it wouldn't go for that much. It set a new record. I was the one that set the record. And I think I paid $1,800 for it, which is a lot of money for this book. I think the previous record was around like 14 or 12, maybe. I don't know. It was something much lower. And I was like pretty excited just to get the book. However, a week later, two of them came up. And I think one was a 3.0 and one was a 1.8. And they both sold for about $1,800. So I was like, I think the 3.0 was restored though. I would have rathered one of those other copies because I feel like now I've overpaid for this book. So at the time I didn't mind paying that much, but after seeing those other copies come up and then go for less, or well, basically the same as what I paid, kind of bothered me. And so in a way, I kind of regret buying this book. I wish that maybe I had let the other guy win, and then been like a little bit disappointed at the time, but then been able to jump on one of the better graded ones. So that's the only thing. One fortunate thing about this book, it is a 0.5, and the reason it's a 0.5 is it doesn't even say. I'm not sure why. I think it's just that I don't think it's ink. I think it's because it's brittle pages. I think that's why. And maybe the spine is split. I'm not sure really why. I think it's because the spine's completely split. You can see it more on the back. But other than that, I think it's a complete copy. Because normally it would denote saying, oh, page is missing or whatever. But it doesn't. So it's brittle pages, which is not always the best. Split spine, which is definitely not the best. But it presents really well. At least it's a really nice presenting 0.5. If that, that's really what I was going for. I was going for a really nice cover. So that's me trying to put a positive spin on it. Now, are there any books that I wouldn't want in my collection, regardless of price? Well, regardless of price, if it's $0, that's the regardless of price kind of situation. Then if somebody gave me a comic that I didn't really want, like I could I don't know, think of comics that are just not ones that I'd normally collect, I wouldn't like, I wouldn't really be against it. There's no, there's no comics that I really say, oh, I hate that comic. I'd never want to have that comic in my collection. There are ones that I just wouldn't buy normally, but I wouldn't say there's one that I would reject. Even ones that go against my either my political stance or whatever, I would actually collect just because they do go against my political stance, and because I think sometimes they're time capsules on our modern our society, regardless, whenever the comic came out. So I'm actually kind of very open-minded that way, that I actually think it's interesting to see books that maybe go against our sensibilities of the current day or the current era. So yeah, there's no real book that I'd be against, I guess, but maybe the storage of it might be annoying, but that's about it. So yeah, so that's hopefully answers your question. The next comes from my good friend Stepify, which is Stephen Gentner. He wrote, "What are the top 5 worst comic books according to the Seduction of the Innocent, and most heinous in both your considered opinion and Fredrick Wertham's worst 5? Why are they the worst?" Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple things on this one. So for people that like, if you haven't watched my channel, you wouldn't know about this. But one of the things that caused the Comic Code Authority to get implemented, and really marked the end of the Golden Age, was a book called The Seduction of the Innocent. And this was written by Fredrick Wertham. And basically it marked a change in attitude. Already comics were a bit under fire before this book was even released, because Wertham was an activist. He was a very powerful activist. He was writing in the Women's Journal. He was writing in Reader's Digest. He was writing in lots of places, and he was very much an activist with political sway as well, where he was convincing different lawmakers to kind of put the screws on comics. And this was kind of his masterpiece within that realm, where he basically said, hey, this is why we got to get rid of comics. This is the reason we got to crack down on comics and make sure that they don't destroy the youth of America. So he created a book called The Seduction of the Innocent, and it was basically targeting parents who were worried about the rise in juvenile delinquency. So he created this book. And so the question becomes, well, what would be Wertham's 5 worst? Okay, well, he never says, these are my 5 worst. No, he never actually says that. But we can get hints at maybe what would be considered his 5 worst. Now, if you read the book, he has really multiple things that he hates, I guess is the best way to say it about comics. One would be really getting back to that juvenile delinquency, that comics are instructional on how to commit crime. And that was a big thing for him. Big thing that is kind of throughout the whole book is that these comics are teaching kids how to be criminals. So with that in mind, I think what he would find the worst, and I'll show you a few examples, I kind of bookmarked it, is he had these like kind of pictures of the various books. And if you notice the one on this side, you can see it's like a diagram of how to commit a crime. And then he had other ones right here on where the most vulnerable spots on a human body are, which you can basically target to cause the most pain or most damage on a person. So yeah. So, and this second one, this one with the body, one of the things that you'll notice is it says eyes, finger or jab or thumb gouge. Okay, so with that in mind, he was really, another thing that he really hated in comics was when there was injury to eye. Because that's something that if kids, get influenced by comics and they go around poking each other's eyes, well, that's something that's pretty serious and easy to happen. It could easily happen. Not that there was a mass outbreak of people getting poked in the eye as kids, but according to Wertham, there might have been. So those were the big things that he was paranoid about. So what books kind of reflect those sensibilities? And I have a few here. So the one that I just showed, where it shows the different body parts where you could potentially, get poked or stabbed or whatever, is this book. This is Top Secrets number 7. And it basically is fact picture stories, well, where it basically shows like what criminals are doing. A lot of these books, they were really trying to show that how horrible criminals could be and the types of activities that they were doing. So, it was supposed to be educational against crime, but Wertham interpreted as being educational for crime. So that's that one. Now, in Exposed number 7, this is another one of his ones that would be high on his list. This one is the one where it shows the map on how to basically break into a house and like commit burglaries. So, and if you think about it, most burglaries are actually done by kids breaking into houses and stuff like that. So, so this was instructional for kids on how to do that. So this would be another one on his top list, I would say. Now this one, and I actually will show you the panel for it, is really graphic. This is Classics Illustrated number 44. Now this one has a scene where a man is like with a blindfold on his eye and across his eyes, and one of his eyes is getting literally gouged out. So very horrible thing. And Wertham, as I said, he's really freaked out about any injury to eye. So this would definitely be on his list. And I'll show you what that looks like. The panel for that one. One sec here. It's pretty gruesome. It is what it is. So let's just quickly go to that one. So we got, I think this is the one here. I'm pretty sure this might be a different one, but this is an example of the injury to eye. You can see. I don't actually know if this is the same one, to tell you the truth. Yes, Mary. Yeah, square things. Yeah, this is actually a different one, but this is an example. But the description that he wrote about Classics Illustrated is kind of similar to this, where it's a very gruesome injury to eye kind of situation. This is an ice pick to the eye, which is another thing that he'd be very much against. I forgot which book that's from, actually. Now, there's a few others. And you asked which one I would think would be on my top list. And I'm going to show actually 3 more books. One is this one that I think would be high on Wertham's list. This is Dynamic Comics number, I forget what number this is, number 17. So number 17, and I put in a bookmark just because I need to show you the panel. This is the hot poker one. So you see him, the guy right there, he's lighting up the poker, putting it in the little furnace down here and making it nice and hot. And then he's approaching the woman with it. He's going to poke her with it. So yeah, so that's an example of the hot poker. Yeah, you see the girl, she's all freaked out. So just a example of the injury to eye / hot poker, which is another trope that was very common within Wertham's things, that he really didn't like any kind of hot poker or things that were really kind of more horrible forms of torture. Obviously, he'd be against that. Now, the next two, um, I'm going to show one, I think, okay, so the first one is one that Wertham, I think, would have had on his list, just because the inside panels is one thing, but to have the cover be that gruesome, or just too much for maybe kids to have, would be, I think, higher up on his list. So one of the more famous covers is this one, where it's in the panels as well for Wertham that he shows this cover. It's the hanging cover, where is showing somebody being literally killed, like hung, and you see his bone in his neck is even bulging out. So definitely this would be high on Wertham's list. This is a Johnny Craig cover, one of his more famous covers actually. And this is a very infamous book because of the fact that it is so gruesome. So I would say this would be the round up that 5 on Wertham's list. Now for me, I'm just going to add one for myself that I would have put maybe on the list that maybe is a little bit over the top, but personally I don't really have that threshold. Because I wouldn't necessarily say, oh kids, here, go read these books. I would expect that as responsible parents, you'd say, hey kids, maybe this comic is too mature for you. But as an adult, I don't feel those kind of things where I say, oh, this is just too much. So yeah, so here's an example though of a kind of over the top cover. You have the woman being strangled underwater. And it just looks like she's like going through maybe sheer hell. So basically a very brutal cover. And yeah, this is an Al Felstein cover actually, an artist that I really enjoy. So just a very over the top cover. You can see it. She's sort of breathing her last gasp, kind of thing. So definitely a very over the top cover. One I'd be like a little bit nervous if let's say my kids under the age of maybe 10 went and bought that. I'd be like, oh, maybe that's not quite the right book for you. But those are the ones that I would say Wertham and potentially myself would be a little bit questioning. But yeah, just some seduction in this and stuff. I'm actually planning to do a video some point once I have the complete collection. I'm only missing like 3 books now, where I show the whole seduction in innocent books that were mentioned inside that, all the comics that were mentioned. There's about 155 of them altogether, and they go across a whole bunch of different genres like horror, romance, crime, and good girl. So there's just like a whole bunch of different, and superhero. Even DC was not spared and from being made on the list. So definitely I plan to do that once I get a complete collection. So hopefully I can complete my collection soon, and then I can do that video. Okay, so next is from Metal Bum, who asks, how long have you been collecting actively? What are your top mid-tier first appearance in the Golden Age characters? Like, so first he's asking which characters made their first appearance in the Golden Age that are affordable, under $1,000, okay? And so I'm going to show you a bunch of under $1,000 cool first appearances that you can pick up from the Golden Age. And he basically wanted villains and smaller heroes, because obviously the bigger heroes you would expect would be pretty expensive. So I'm going to show all that. But first, how long have I been collecting actively? Really since 2018. Where I've been really going a bit crazy. That was when I sold my house, and basically instead of having to pay my massive mortgage at the time, I was paying like $10,000 to $15,000 just for my mortgage. I've been putting that money back into comics instead, and instead of, because I sold my house and then moved to a downsized, and then I didn't have a mortgage, so I had all this extra money and I was just playing with it basically. I should stop doing that, but been sort of active for the last few years as a result. But before that, even, I was always buying something or other, but not to the extreme. I didn't really have as much free money to do that with. So yeah, yeah. So that's really since 2018. But I've really been actively collecting since the 90s. And even as a kid, I would get comics from my parents. So yeah, it's been a while. But I'm going to show you a bunch of cool characters that you can get easily under 1,000, and actually maybe even under 300. So a whole bunch. I brought a big little stack of books to show, and we're going to start out with different characters. So this is not this is a hero. You can see how much I paid, 240, and this is a low grade. It's a 1/8. Questionable 1/8 actually. I think it presents really well. This is the first appearance of Nyoka, and it's actually a great bondage cover too. So, and this is she was actually a pretty big character in the Golden Age. She had a fairly long-running series. It ran over 100 issues, and she had a serial as well. So just a cool character from the Golden Age that's really affordable. As I said, so you can get a much higher grade, probably $500, and you can get maybe a 6.0 or higher. So yeah, definitely a cool character. So this is Jungle Girl #1, where she makes her first appearance, and it's a very cool first appearance because she's on the cover in bondage. So that's one. I'm gonna show you some more. Okay, so then we got. For me, I always like my good girls. So one of my favorite good girl characters is Torchy, and this is where she made her first appearance. Was in Dollman Quarterly #8. This is like a $300 to $400 book. Maybe it's gone up a bit since I paid for it. But maybe it's a $500 book on the high end. This is like a VG 4.5 copy. So yeah, you can pick this up fairly cheaply, and she's a cool character. This is not her on the cover. That's Dollman, but definitely a cool character. So this is her first appearance. Dollman Quarterly #8, first appearance of Torchy. And if you look behind me, like right there, you can see some Torchy books. So she was a cool character, and there's actually a fan base for her. There's a lot of people that in the modern era still like the character. And now this is a really interesting one, maybe because it's under the radar. People don't realize the significance and how cool this book is, and that it is a first appearance. This is Super Magic Comics #8. This is the first appearance of Abbott and Costello. Now, they're not the typical comic characters that you think about. They're, actually celebrities, but they actually had their own comic series, and it was a very good comic series. It had great good girl art, and actually the comic series does command fairly big money for some of the key issues with good girl art. But this is where they made their first appearance. So Super Magician Comics #8. So something to look for. And it's a great cover too. It's kind of this weird monstery guy. Bit of a good girl there as well. So yeah. So volume 1, #8. There's actually multiple volumes to Super Magician Comics. Okay, another kind of comedic, but this is actually a character in comics, is Sad Sack. And he made his first appearance in True Comics. This is True Comics #55. And you can get this for under $100. It's a pretty cheap one to pick up. So this is the first appearance of Sad Sack. So very affordable comic for a pretty major first appearance. Sad Sack had a pretty long running series. I think it ran even into the like 80s. Like it ran really long. If it's still not running, I'm not sure. So pretty major character. And you can pick up his first appearance for, I picked this up for like $50 or something like that, or $100. It was pretty affordable is my point. So yeah, so True Comics #55. Now let's get into some villains, some bigger books. Or actually one more good girl. I'll do one more good girl. This is a really interesting one. You can pick this one up for about $200 or maybe less. This is Pageant of Comics #1. And this is the first appearance and cover appearance of Mopsy, this character. Now, she was another character. She had a short-lived series. I think it was about 20 some odd, 30 issues kind of range. But really interesting character, really underappreciated series. But definitely one that I liked. So this is Mopsy, first appearance of Mopsy, and this is Parade of Comics #1. Or Pageant of Comics, sorry, not Parade. Pageant of Comics #1. So Mopsy, our first appearance of Mopsy. So it's Pageant of Comics #1. Okay, and you can pick that up easily under $200. Okay, so the next two are a bit bigger, but definitely cool, and almost like shockingly inexpensive for this book. This is All Flash #32. Now this is actually the first appearance of two major characters. We got the Fiddler, okay, who is a villain, one of the Flash's rogues gallery. He's kind of a major character. He was the character that was featured in Stargirl. So it's a character that's even used into the modern era. So it is a character that's well known. And this is his first appearance, and he's on the cover, which makes it extra cool. And it's a bondage cover. A whole bunch going for this book. But it's also the first appearance of Star Sapphire, who is another major character. Star Sapphire was more important for the Green Lantern, but definitely a cool character nonetheless. So you get two first appearances in this one book, and you can pick this up under $500 in a low grade. This is a low grade. But even in a higher grade, you could probably still get it under that $1,000 range. Now, just at the very top of that $1,000 range, the next book is a bigger book. It is a major character, and it's just in that round, that $800 to $1,000 mark for the grade that I bought. So this is Tim Holt #11, and this is the first appearance of the Ghost Rider. Now, this is the Golden Age Ghost Rider. Most people know the motorcycle riding Ghost Rider. Well, this is the very first version, which was Tim Holt #11 version, and it's a character that was done by Frank Frazetta. So this is what he looked like. He was sort of a rider on a ghostly, he was a character that died, came back with the talents of other gun, famous gun people like Wild Bill and Calamity Kate and all these kind of characters, Wyatt Earp and all those ones. So just a really cool character, and appeared in the Golden Age and appeared in this book. So this is Tim Holt #11. This goes, as I said, around $800 to $1,000 range for a lower grade. Now the thing about this book, this character actually appeared, I believe, appeared in the first Ghost Rider movie, where they actually showed this character in the movie. So another not forgotten character from the Golden Age. So very cool first appearance to get. Very hard book to find, though. Not many of these exist. So it is one that's a little harder to find, but definitely affordable compared to, first major characters. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting one. So that's Tim Holt #11. So I hope you enjoyed those ones. I thought they were pretty good ones. The next question comes from Black Boxed Silver and Bronze, my friend Joe. He asked, can you show your favorite Golden Age girls in tube covers? Okay, so there was a recent post on Instagram where somebody posted all these women in tubes kind of thing. And actually I have most of the ones that were shown in that image. I found only a few of them, though, when I was actually searching, but I did try to find as many from my collection as possible. And I'll show you the ones I found. There's this one. So this is Tales of Horror. This is actually another SOTI book. So this is Tales of Horror #6, and the girls, and the the Beaker. This weird kind of vampire-like characters. Yeah. It's a really great Good Girl art cover. I love when there's Good Girl and horror mixed together. I think it's a good, cool mix. Then we got another really classic Girl in the Tube kind of one. Where is this? I got it again. She's in a beaker this time. She's but she has like a skeleton head, which is interesting. So this is Strange Fantasy number. I forget what number. I forget what number. I totally forget what number this is. I think it's 8. I feel like it's 8. Why do I feel like it's 8? And it doesn't say. That's so annoying. I don't like when they don't say which issue it is. Okay, I will have to look this up. But Strange Fantasy, and just a really great one. So there's a lot of really great covers in Strange Fantasy. So that's a Girl in the Tube. Now the next two are my two favorite actually. We got Strange Worlds number 4, and you got the naked girl in the tube, and guy as well. This is a Wally Wood cover. Just a really great cover. So yeah, Strange Worlds number 4. Mine's a little bit beaten up. You can see a big chunk missing there and a big chunk missing there, but I'm still happy to have it because it's a rather expensive book and higher grades. Next one is Planet Comics number 56, and you got a whole bunch of women in tubes in different states of disrepair. So you got the one woman here, and then you gradually see they're becoming more and more skeletal. So yeah, very interesting women in tubes kind of one here. So Planet Comics is a really great series. Lots of really great covers. So this is Planet Comics number 56. And those are all the women in tubes that I could find. I'm sure that I have others. I just can't think of what they are. I have to do a bit of a better search. I'm actually in the process of reorganizing my comics. And right now it is just a bit chaotic in here. And I'm in the process. It will get sorted out where it won't be so chaotic. And then I'll be able to find something a little bit easier. But those are all the ones I could find. The last question comes from Mike Swintel. He wrote, would you be interested in hearing or then retelling some heartbreaking comic book or comic collection stories? Yeah. I love hearing people's stories about comic collecting, good and bad. And if people tell me those stories, I will definitely recant them to the audience and tell their story. I've had a pretty positive experience for the most part with comics myself. The only time that, and I'll share one of my sad stories, was when I was a kid. I want to say when I was a kid, but when I was in university, I was pretty much very, very poor, like insanely poor. I was living on like basically like for food per month, I'd have like maybe $50, like 50. And I would work multiple jobs just to have a little extra money. And the jobs, because I was like a student, and there was weird thing where they really didn't like hiring guys for some reason, especially white guys even back then. It was really weird. So the only jobs I could get were like just the worst jobs, like just terrible, like telephone marketing and like door-to-door salesman, just really bad level jobs, like very painful, hard work, very little pay kind of jobs. And I would do those jobs to get extra money just so that I could have more than the few dollars that I had for food. And I would have extra money to buy comics. So with that in mind, that's how I was building my original collection. I didn't have huge money. Maybe after all of the work that I would do, I'd have like a few $100s to spend on comics, which was pretty good actually for the time. So I basically spend all my like my parents were pretty good. I can't complain. My parents actually paid for my university, so I really can't complain. But in terms of extra money, I really didn't have much money. So I'd have like a little bit of money for food, which I'd buy Mr. Noodles and like I'd live like really terribly, and then I'd earn extra money just to buy comics. So this was, I just want to set up the hardship of my life. It wasn't really that hard, but that was the circumstance. It didn't really bother me at the time, to tell you the truth. I don't know why it didn't really bother me, but I was so focused on getting comics rather than eating and surviving, which is, you know, how you think when you're a kid. But so the funny thing is, so I have all this money that I'm using to buy comics. And at the time, I really got into Malibu comics. That was the big thing I was really into. And I was like, basically, every dollar that I had extra, I would put to buying Malibu comics. And I eventually got the complete collection of Malibu comics. And I would lug that collection around with me from house to house as I, you know, graduated from university all the way to today. Like when I, you know, every time I moved, I'd bring these. I had 2 long boxes filled with Malibu comics, and my early collection. And what happened was I had these 2 boxes, and we were just moving into my previous house, and we were doing some renovations in order to prepare my comic room. I was pretty excited about that, and I had the comics in an area where right directly above that area was my kitchen, and my wife, she was preparing some Korean food, and she was preparing like kimchi, and she was just preparing it in the sink. So she was like, you know, basically she filled up the sink with water, and she was cleaning this cabbage that she was using for kimchi. And what happened was, when she drained the sink in the kitchen, it overwhelmed the pipe. So what happened was the water just poured into the basement, right above my 2 long boxes of Malibu comics. I don't know why those 2 specific boxes, and it just major water damage right across all those comics. They were all just not destroyed, but definitely not mint anymore. Definitely very waterlogged kind of looking. So they were 2 long boxes completely destroyed. And you know, when I saw this, because it happened in an instant, it was just like, you know, just all of them destroyed. I was heartbroken because I knew how much effort I like. That was like 4 years of collecting, and real, like, you know, sacrificing food, sacrificing everything to buy, like, and working like crazy hours to earn enough money to pay for those comics, even though they're worthless. You know, Malibu comics, they didn't go anywhere. They're worthless for the most part. But just to see it get destroyed, you know, after all that work, you know, it was like something from my university era. It was just very hard. It was really hard on me. I was like almost in tears, like, just to see my collection get destroyed like that. So yeah, it was really rough. So fortunately, the house insurance covered the damage, and actually, you know, they gave me more than probably they're worth. So I was quite happy at the end of it, but I was very sad to have my prized collection that really is not much of a prize, but it was cool to me, get destroyed. I just was very sad about that. That was probably one of the hardest things that I experienced in comic collecting. I was like just really upset about it. It was brutal. So yeah, fortunately, none of my more expensive comics that were actually just a little bit off to one side were not affected. So just my 2 long boxes of Malibu comics. So yeah, that's my sad story. And that's it for the Q&A part. Now I have a bonus part. So you're probably wondering, what is this bonus part? Well, speaking of like childhood collections, my parents recently stopped by, and they dumped some of my old childhood stuff on me, like stuff that I don't want. Most of it's stuff I don't even want, but they were just trying to clean it out of their house. But they did bring a couple things that I did want. One was my Matchbox car collection. So I'm going to show this, give you a sense of my, you know, Hot Wheels and stuff like that. I know this is not comic related, but it is a collection. And like I had like little Snoopy ones. I really like Snoopy. I was a big Snoopy fan. I had like so many of these. This is not the full collection, but I had a whole bunch of Snoopies. And then I had different Hot Wheels. Even had the Hot Wheels sticker on it, and this one's like a flip top. I don't know. So this, I can show you the whole thing. Okay, wait. Let me see if I can do this. I'm not used to displaying cars. So yeah, we got there, and I'll just take them all out so you can see them. So here's some more. You can see I really was into Snoopy. I really like Snoopy. So you can see that. And then I even had comic related ones. This is Hulk, and you can even like see, if you look inside, which you probably can't, you can see the Hulk inside. It's kind of interesting. And so these are different cars, and actually I had some pretty cool cars. I actually like these cars. One sec here, let's see. I don't know if I doubt they're worth anything, but they were cars from my childhood. We got all these kind of Hot Wheels. So you guys can tell me if there are any ones that are super valuable, but I doubt it. They were just ones that I got as a kid. So these are, let me just put these all back. So that's one collection, but the other collection I got, which I'm super excited about, was my Star Wars collection. So this is my Star Wars action figures. Actually, it's a pretty good collection. So we got, here, I gotta take it out. So we got all the different Star Wars characters. Yeah, you got Darth Vader. One sec here. Darth Vader with his like lightsaber and jacket. He's very complete. And we got a whole bunch of C-3POs. I'm not sure why I have so many C-3POs. And then we have this other droid. Not sure what his name was, but. And we got a little Jawa. And then we got like a sand dude with his cape. And we even have Boba Fett with the cannon on his back. So Boba Fett. And that's the first layer. And then we got some more. I don't know if I can show this properly. We got like Obi-Wan and Luke and Princess Leia. So yeah, these are all from when I was a kid. So I got these. These are the first edition Star Wars figures. They'd be from like the late 70s, early 80s, I would say. And yeah, I was a big Star Wars fan, and this was my Star Wars collection. So that's the bonus at the end of this video. A little bit longer video, but hope you enjoyed that. A bit of my childhood. And actually I was impressed by, they're not as mangled as I expected them to be, considering I was like playing with them, bashing them around and stuff when I was a kid. So, you know, they're actually not in bad shape. So yeah, so that is my extra little bonus for you. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a question you want me to ask me, please put it in the comments below. And if you have a story, like just like Mike Santel asked, that you want me to share, I can share a story as well. So thanks again for watching, and bye for now.